Okay, so our lesson today is solving systems, and we're going to be looking at word problems, so application problems. So I'm going to start off by going through the steps that I always take, and these are going to be steps that are going to help you when it comes to setting up these equations, because that is the hardest part. So our objective is I can translate a word problem into a system of linear equations. And our first step is to read the problem. You always want to make sure you read the problem and understand what it's asking. Okay, so after I read the problem, then I underline or I highlight, or I actually like to use brackets. I put brackets around the question. That question is important because within that question is going to be where you define your variables. My variables is, hey, what am I trying to figure out here? What's my unknown value? So step 3 is to define the variables, and they're found in the question. Then after you do that, reread the problem if you need to and set up your equations. Now, for the equations that you set up, I always tell students, start with totals. So anything that is equal to something, or typically bigger numbers, that's going to be where you start with. And then from there, you're going to be able to figure out everything else just using those totals. Because it's a systems, you're going to have 2 totals. And then once you set up your equations, you're going to determine the best method to solve the system and solve it. So our first equation. A store receives a shipment of VCRs and CD players. A shipment of 5 VCRs and 4 CD players costs $1,950. A shipment of 3 VCRs and 6 CD players costs $2,250. Find the cost of a VCR and the cost of a CD player. Okay, so step 2. I've underlined, or I'm going to highlight, or I'm going to put brackets around the question. And within this question is going to be where I define my variables. So step 3 is where we're at now. Define the variables. So I'm having to find the cost of a VCR. You see, that's an unknown. So that's going to be a variable. X is going to be the cost of 1 VCR. Okay, you can tell this problem's outdated. I'm also having to find the cost of a CD player. That is an unknown, so that's going to be my second variable. So Y is going to equal the cost of a CD player. So now I know what my variables are, what I'm trying to find, so now I'm ready to set up my equations. So I'm going to look for totals in this problem. What in here looks or appears to be a total? Well, $1,950, that appears to be a total. And $2,250, that also appears to be a total. So now that I've done that, notice how there's other numbers that stick out, like 5 VCRs and 4 CD players cost $1,950. I need to use those 2 numbers in my equation. So 5 VCRs, or 5X, and 4 CD players, so 4Y equals $1,950. There's my first equation. Okay, so now the second equation. So then we have 3 VCRs and 6 CD players cost $2,250. So 3X plus 6Y is equal to $2,250. So now I have my 2 equations set up. So now I've got to determine the best method to solve this. Notice how both functions how your x's are lined up, your y's are lined up, and your constants are lined up. So notice how they're all in standard form. So I'm going to solve using elimination. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video for now. The second video is going to go through the process of solving this, but before you watch it, see if you can do it on your own.